What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Week 3 is in the book, so time to look at the Week 4 waiver wire. To be honest, the last 2 weeks for waiver wire have been a lot better. There are very few really good new options this week. We'll go over the ones that stand out, but again, last 2 weeks have been better for waiver wire. Number one claim this week is pretty obvious. It's Achane. Also, he does not want to be called Achane anymore. It's Achane, so we're going to try and get that one right. Anyways, 70 points, 10 touchdowns scored against the Broncos, 8 of them coming from the running backs. Mostert, 13 carries, 7 receptions, turns that into 142 yards, 4 touchdowns. Achane turns 18 carries and 4 receptions into 233 yards and 4 more touchdowns. Now, I'm sure I don't need to tell you that they will not be scoring 4 touchdowns each every single week, but Achane still ranks 3rd with 23 expected fantasy points last week. So even if you remove the extreme touchdown luck, just given the level of volume he was seeing in the specific areas of the field, he should have scored a lot of fantasy points. So the underlying volume was still very, very good. Obviously, it was crazy efficiency, but the volume was still very, very good. I personally do think that he's worth a number one claim. Right now, my suggestion is 37% of your fab on him, but that really comes down to your team. I know there's a lot of you out there that maybe, many of you actually had a combination of Saquon and Chubb. And while Saquon should be coming back soon, Chubb will not be. There's a number of different running backs you could have drafted that will not be coming back or be missing a lot of time or have missed time, aren't playing right now. So many of you have a big need at the running back position. You can bump that up higher if you really just need it and you're like, I don't even care. I need to win now. I need running back. I need Achane. Go after him. Spend a lot for him. But some of you maybe went running back early. Maybe you grabbed McCaffrey and Pollard, I don't know, in the first 2 rounds, and you're thinking, okay, I could add him, but I would prefer not to spend half of my fab on someone I'm probably not going to start, in the first month or so. So it depends really what bucket you fall into for him. But again, I think he's worth the number one claim. On average, I think around 37% of your fab is roughly what he should be worth. But again, going to come down to your exact needs. There's also no guarantee that he's going to have a really strong role once Jeff Wilson does return from the IR. We don't really know when that'll happen, though. Jeff Wilson could return in week 5. He could return in week 7, week 10. They kind of alluded to him not returning at all this season. We have no idea what's going to happen there. And with, Mostert, Achane both playing really well, who knows? Honestly, who knows what the roles are going to be? I just think because there is a scenario where, given how well he played and how great he looked, honestly, he looked fantastic last week. Given that my prospect model really liked him, so this isn't some fluke, some random player coming out where we're like, oh, they're not supposed to be good. He was supposed to be really good. They spent, a 3rd round pick on him. It's not shocking, right, that he's having a pretty good breakout. And because of the possibility that he could be their best running back, it's a great team, high-scoring offense. I just think, there is downside risk. You almost have to ignore it and say, I'm going to chase the upside and go after him. After that, pretty big drop-off. So you have Achane really at the top. Way down is everyone else. Everyone else is someone that I would only spend at most maybe a number 3 or number 4 claim on. At most, maybe 6 or 7% of your fab in a 12-team league. Bump that up in 14, 16. Bump that down in 8 and 10-team leagues. First up is Adam Thielen. He's played virtually every passing snap this season. He's been living in the slot. He's their full-time slot wide receiver. I didn't recognize it was a smash matchup until Sunday, unfortunately. Moving forward, let's keep in the back of our mind, slot receivers against the Seahawks are going to crush. It's a great matchup for them. Anyways, he goes off for 11 for 145 and a touchdown, 14 targets. That's a week after catching 7 balls on 9 targets, so getting a lot of volume there. It helped that Mingo left with a concussion early. It helped that Dalton threw the ball 58 times. That's 20 more times than Bryce Young had thrown in either of the first 2 weeks. And so you've got a dream matchup. Other wide receiver that's going to get volume gets hurt. Play volume really spiked. Not exactly shocking that he goes off, and not exactly super repeatable circumstances, right? We talked about with Achane, well, it's going to be a good offense. They're not going to score 70 every week, but they're going to be really good. He's a really good player. I mean, Adam Thielen is likely to break down a little bit as the season goes on, given his age. But then also, they're not going to throw the ball 58 times per game. He's not going to have injuries at the wide receivers each game. He's not going to be a dream matchup each game. So I think he's worth adding as a bench piece, but don't go crazy. He's not some like must start every week. Now, after Thielen, I'd say it's Charbonnet. Ken Walker's snaps have been trending down from 65%, 61% down to 49% in week 3. Charbonnet's doing the opposite. They're trending up 24% in week 1, 28% in week 2, 44% in week 3. Charbonnet, another prospect I loved. I thought Charbonnet was an incredible prospect, better than Achane. Like, I loved Charbonnet this offseason. It was unfortunate seeing him land in Seattle because I think he could be a starter on, I don't want to say every team, but like a lot of different teams. Charbonnet could be the starting running back for and be producing really, really well for them. He's kind of in a similar situation as with Roschon Johnson, who we'll go over in a minute. Basically a handcuff plus. Like, you can't start him right now. He is a handcuff. He has elite upside if Ken Walker were to get hurt. And he does, though. The plus part is he's got an outside shot of like overtaking Walker, at least as like the most fantasy viable running back on that team. But it's an outside shot. I'd say it's maybe like 75, 80% chance that Walker is the starting running back, number 1 scoring running back for the rest of the season, and that Charbonnet is still someone that you sort of can't start without an injury. But the upside is incredible. And as we talked about over the offseason, Charbonnet is a much better receiving back than Ken Walker is, and that's starting to play out. Charbonnet is getting more and more passing down snaps. He's playing like 2-minute drills, like when they want to be throwing the ball. Now Charbonnet is getting onto the field, and as he starts to take over that workload, if he's also mixing in on the ground, it's just going to lead to a lot of upside for him. I think he needs to be rostered, but again, you can't play him right now. And again, same thing with Roschon. He's a little bit further down the list, but I guess we can talk about him here. Snaps have been trending up as well, especially since they're not playing Foreman right now. He looks really, really good, but it's on limited touches. And he probably has a better chance of overtaking Herbert than Charbonnet does of overtaking Ken Walker. But unfortunately, plays for the Bears, right? They've been horrible. They've lost 1 billion straight games. They're not looking good on offense. You need to be featured. Like, you need to be a featured running back on the Bears to be fantasy viable. Well, I don't think that happens. I don't think they just completely go away from Khalil Herbert unless there's an injury. So again, both of them are handcuffs plus. Big, big, big upside as a handcuff. Outside shot of still hitting in fantasy without an injury, but only an outside shot. And that's really it for running backs this week. You can throw in Tyjae Spears if you want to. Snaps are going up, but he's purely handcuff, not handcuff plus. He's not overtaking Henry. I know the snaps are there, but like Derrick Henry is still getting the early down workload. And even when they're getting a lot of snaps for Tyjae Spears, he's not getting a lot of touches in these snaps. So he's still purely handcuffed, but decent upside one. It's just he's also on the Titans, who've been terrible this season. At wide receiver, there's a number of players I'd be willing to spend like 2% to 6% of my fab on, somewhere in that like number 4 to number 7 in waiver priority on. Top one in my eyes is Quentin Johnson. Maybe not short term. So if you need someone like this week, I still, even with, of course, this is because Michael Williams towards ACL, I still don't think that Quentin Johnson's like a must start immediately. I honestly think my guess would be that Palmer will project better. I'm going to finish up the projections. Those will go live maybe like an hour after this video goes up, as will the rest of season projections. But rest of season, I prefer Quentin Johnson because I think in the second half of the year, that's when he truly breaks out, has a lot of weekly upside, probably someone we're starting every week. Right now, I don't think they fully trust him yet. I don't think he's fully developed yet. And so I think Palmer, who hasn't been playing very good in his own right, but I think Palmer is probably the one you want right now. So if you had to make a choice for right now this week, it would be Palmer over Quentin Johnson. Many of you don't need to do that for wide receiver. I could see it at running back, but at wide receiver, I think it's worth just taking the long-term upside of Quentin Johnson, so I prefer him over Palmer. You could also go after Tank Dell. You could also, draft or pick up Palmer. He's still good at. Tank Dell, also probably someone I would rather for the short term over both those players, but long term again, Quentin Johnson. But Tank Dell, 10 and 7 targets in back-to-back weeks. He hit on a deep touchdown this week. He's now 42nd in expected fantasy points among wide receivers. That's someone that should be rostered in all formats. Also, CJ Stroud has looked really good so far, and it's been against the Ravens, the Colts, and the Jaguars. So, not 3 unbelievable defenses that do have holes in them. I would say the Ravens are a really good defense, but Colts and Jaguars have holes in them, but they're not pushovers either. And 2 of those games were also on the road. I know that Dell is a rookie. I know that CJ Stroud's a rookie, and that combination historically is not fantastic for fantasy production. So we could definitely see the production drop off for Tank Dell, but both are playing really well. Teams running a lot of plays. They're throwing the ball a lot. They want both players to develop, so they both should stay on the field. Obviously Stroud will, but Dell's going to stay on the field all season. I think, we're going to talk about actually Stroud as a streaming option, but I think Dell should be rostered all formats. After Dell, I think we have Romeo Doubs. Was drafted in most formats, but had 26 and 30 yards in back-to-back weeks to start the season on limited snaps. And so I think many people did drop him. But snaps have been going up. 48% in week 1, 76% in week 2, 86% last week. He's now fully recovered from the hamstring injury. He's good to go. We're expecting Watson back soon. I think it's going to be Christian Watson returning this week, then a little bit later, Aaron Jones. I don't know if Jones is going to return this week, but I think Watson will. Once everyone's back, you've got Aaron Jones back, you've got Christian Watson back, you've got Jaden Reed developing, you've got Musgrave developing. I don't know about the long-term upside of Romeo Doubs, but he's really good. I think objectively, he's a very good wide receiver. He's 33rd in expected fantasy points this season, even being limited into the first 3 weeks. So I don't know. I don't think he's someone that we're going to be shocked and is oh my goodness, he's a wide receiver 1 rest of the season, wide receiver 2, but I think he should be rostered in all formats. I think he's very, very good talent. And I just think that if you've had someone drop him, maybe you're not starting right now, maybe you don't ever, but he'll probably be someone who's worthwhile in that second flex spot, that third wide receiver spot, and mixing into that only flex spot when we have bye weeks, when we have more injuries, when we have bad matchups. Those things are going to start to happen. Byes are coming. And so when those kind of happen, I think Dobbs will be a good fill-in. Not a weekly starter though. Last 2 wide receivers, I don't think anyone is starting right now, but they absolutely could be starters in a few weeks, and that's Josh Downs and Marvin Mims. Downs more in a full PPR format because his ADOT is so low that he needs to rack up all those receptions. You want to play him in a format that benefits from that. But Downs up to 80% of snaps last week, commanded 12 targets. He's now firmly the number 2 in the target share. It's going to be Pittman 1 and Downs number 2 when we get to the end of the season in targets for this team. Again, the low ADOT hurts him. We're not really going after him in standard. In half PPR, he's probably a little bit less viable. And it's also that combination of rookie quarterback when Richardson's back plus Downs. But in full PPR, if he's going to command 7-8 targets every week and he's going to rack up 5-6 receptions a lot of the time, he needs to be rostered in full PPR formats. And then Marvin Mims, he's clearly going to be such a good player. Sean Payton has been taking it very slow with him. We know that it's not like he's in the doghouse. Sean Payton loves him as a player. He's producing. I don't know. I think Sean Payton's just waiting for him to develop a little bit more. But he's played 48 total snaps. He only played 15 this week, but he still leads the team in receiving yards. He has 8 of the Broncos' 10 longest plays of the season. He scored 39.8 full PPR points on 27 routes so far. He was the best high school player in Texas football history, one of the most efficient college players ever. He's just been good at every level of football. And then you look in here and he's the most efficient player this season. He's just good at football. He's going to score fantasy points. The snaps will go up. I promise you, he's not going to be behind those scrub wide receivers he's behind right now all season. He's going to be good. He should be on rosters. At tight end, pretty much the same as before. Take a shot on one of the rookies if they're available. Laporta, then Kincaid, then Musgrave. I would imagine Laporta's been rostered for a while, so has Kincaid. But Musgrave may not have been. It's a really good season for tight ends. It's a great tight end draft class. Musgrave getting all the snaps. He's receiving tight end, worth rostering. And then Jake Ferguson. He's 3rd right now in expected fantasy points among tight ends behind Hawkinson and Kelsey. So he's getting the volume. He's getting specifically a ton of red zone volume. He already has 1 touchdown. He's going to have a lot of touchdowns this season. That's all we really care about for tight ends when we're not looking at the top 5. And so he should be rostered everywhere. For quarterback streaming options, I see 3 this week. It's a little bit better of an option than last week. Number 1 is Jordan Love. He's still out there versus the Lions. He's actually 4th in actual fantasy points this season, 8th in expected fantasy points. So we talked about last week. He's overperforming a little bit, and we saw the pullback a little bit last week with those touchdowns, but he's still been really, really good. He's likely, like I said, going to get Christian Watson back this week. I think that's what's most impressive about it. Aaron Jones has been out. Christian Watson has been out. He's had a rookie tight end, a rookie wide receiver, and he's still playing really, really well. When he gets Aaron Jones back, when he gets Christian Watson back, this offense can really, really open up. Jordan Love's clearly good. He should be rostered and a great streaming option this week. Number 2, Russell Wilson at the Bears. More of a smash spot for the running backs, of course. We love running backs at the Bears, against the Bears anywhere. I don't care if it's at or verse. But Wilson also 8th in scoring among quarterbacks this season. There also won't be that many weeks where the Broncos are projected to score nearly 25 points. They are the 8th highest projection this week in terms of expected points scored at 24.75. They're going to score points this week. They're going to score touchdowns. Maybe they all come on the ground, but there's also a chance that they score 4 or 5 touchdowns this week. And so there's a chance that Russell Wilson really gets going. He's a great streaming option. Then finally, if you can't get those 2, CJ Stroud versus the Steelers. Not a great matchup, but at least it's at home. He actually is 13th in scoring this season on quarterback, 16th in expected, so not a huge fluke. Again, Steelers aren't a defense we're looking to attack like the Bears are, but the Texans have been good. They're throwing the ball a lot. They're playing fast. Stroud looks good. I don't think he's going to go off this week, but if you had to stream someone, you could definitely do worse than Stroud. Then for defense streaming, I see 5 options this week. Number 1 is the Browns versus the Ravens. Lamar is doing his best out there, but yet again, the entire team is getting injured. And also, the Browns have quietly been one of the best defenses in the league this season. This isn't even just a streaming option. I think if you can pick up the Browns, you might be able to just play them in any matchup all season. Of course, there's going to be games where they're playing really good teams where we'd prefer someone else, but you could probably just pick up the Browns, put them in your starting lineup, and just play them every week besides their bye. They're going to be really, really good this year. Number 2 is the Bucks versus the Saints. Bucks, also very good defense. They're also playing at home this week, and they get Jameis Winston, who's definitely going to be making some mistakes, at least probably. Derek Carr is not confirmed out, I don't think he's going to be playing this week. Number 3 is the Bengals at the Titans. We just saw the Bengals defense is clearly capable of generating a lot of sacks, and also the Titans offensive line is terrible. Their whole team on offense has not been good this season. Number 4, the Texans versus the Steelers. They're at home, and if they can get a lead and force Pittsburgh to throw the ball, that's going to be very, very bad for Pittsburgh. Houston has a great pass defense, but a horrendous run defense. So this one could go bad if the Steelers get up. If the Texans struggle on offense, we could just see the Steelers run the ball a ton. That's terrible for opposing defenses in fantasy. But if the opposite happens, we could see the Steelers have to throw it a lot, and that's going to be really, really bad against the Texans. And then finally, Chargers versus the Raiders. Definitely the one I like the least. Chargers have been a lot worse than I expected on defense this season, but the underlying pieces are still there. They still have quality defenders, and the Raiders aren't exactly lighting up scoreboards. They're 29th in scoring at only 15 points per game. I will say they don't give up a lot of sacks. That's obviously a big part of fantasy scoring. Also, the Chargers don't have a ton of true fans, and so even though they're playing at home, it's not like a lot of other teams that are playing at home. So they're definitely 5th, but they're also an option this week. Again, the Raiders have not been amazing on offense. So you can see my exact fab recommendations for every single player on my website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. You can also see my rest of season rankings and trade calculator over there. So if you want to figure out who you should be dropping to make these claims and figure out what trades will help improve your team, you can do that. Also, like I said before, week 4 rankings, they're going to go live maybe an hour after this video gets posted. So you can also use that to see what waiver moves to make. That, my friends, is this one. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, how about hitting the like button and how about subscribing to the channel if you're new here. Thanks for watching.